Welcome to another episode of the Tough Stuff Podcast.
Be sure to like, love, share, or subscribe wherever you may be watching or listening, because we believe God wants to bring encouragement and hope through these stories. What is up, Tough Stuff Podcast? Man, hope you guys are having a great day. But I am here with my boy, the one and only Chris King. Man, he's a man of about to say a man of many colors, but a man of many, a man of many traits, many crafts, many professions.
Yeah,
I've always got to try to keep up with you, see where you're at, man. Where God's got you, from clothing to TV, just a little dating show on there, to assistant DA, to a lawyer working with your family's law firm, to what? What is up, Chris? How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for having me on, man. I feel like we're going to bless some people today.
Oh, yeah. I'm stoked to be here, man. Psyched to be here with you. Last week, it was ladies' night. If you checked in, man, it was all things feminine, which is such a powerful deal, man. So proud of my wife, just doing what she does best, keeping it real, walking through tough stuff, man, with just a grace on her life. But, man, I'm excited about today, man. Today we're going to get into some dude stuff. Some real stuff, man. But before we get into that, man, Chris, tell us a little bit. Even update me and what it is you're doing in life right now, where you're from, man. You know, how you walked into becoming the man that you are today.
So I'll give you the little quick elevator pitch, Name is Christopher Harrison King from New Orleans, Louisiana.
Middle name
I feel like we might as well do it, I am first and foremost a Christ ambassador, right? Everything I am, everything I'm able to do is solely because of him, right? I got to give him all the credit. But with that, he allows me to do a lot of different things, from being an attorney to being an actor, a model, an artist, have my own clothing line,
social
media. Man, we're doing a little bit of everything,
I asked Chris before we got it, how long you been doing social media? He said, since it started.
Yeah, man. I was when the iPhones kind of came out and it kind of took off. Yeah, I was putting in the work. Now it was nothing like it is now, but man. I think my I guess attraction to the social media is just being a creative, right? Like I love taking a blank canvas and creating stuff with it. So I kind of do the same thing with social media.
God's given you such a platform to do that, man. It's kind of our same heart with this, Social media and just the internet in itself, it really is, man, it is a blank canvas of opportunity for you to paint whatever it is that God is painting in your life or wants to paint through your life.
Yeah.
Man, so from New Orleans originally, right?
Right.
30 years old now?
30 years old.
30 years old and single for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
No ring on the finger, so we're calling him single today.
Technically, right.
But you grew up in New Orleans. Tell us about how you really got to where you are today.
Spiritually, man. So like I said, growing up in New Orleans, my dad's side of the family is Baptist. My mom's side is Catholic. So I've
growing up of the spectrum.
Yeah, man. So I've experienced kind of both, going to Catholic schools, going to Baptist churches.
Black Baptist, though, right?
Yes.
Black Baptist and Southern Baptist are two different
You're right.
things, right?
Most definitely.
I grew up in a Baptist church in Gardere, and we were the whitest family in there. And, I got some Baptist friends now that work at the church, and we'll say something about being Baptist, and it's like polar opposites, man. They don't do music or anything.
Oh, man.
Man, we were speaking in tongues, all of it,
Completely different. But, I think it was great for me to get that exposure, to learn the stories, to learn about Jesus, right?
Yeah.
And it definitely helped me. But when I was about 13, 14, that's when I kind of surrendered it all and gave my life to Christ. I don't think I knew what that entailed at the moment. But with every year,
a pivotal age though, too, man.
No, it was right before.
God was trying to steal the deal before you got in trouble.
I'm gonna keep it honest. I think I did something. I ain't gonna lie. Like I think I got in trouble. Like I pulled the fire alarm in school or something like that, man. And it just was like, I don't know, like something in my spirit just kind of took over and was like, man, I'm tired of doing this. I need your help. I need you to take over my life, right? And since then, God has just been really shaping me and molding me. And when I really got to college, man, that's when the spiritual journey really took off. He surrounded me at Henderson State University with a handful of men that really changed my life.
Wow, which is not the typical college experience.
Oh, not at all.
Man.
Not, especially being a football player and being a fraternity.
Life.
Man, you just don't. I was the oddball out. You know what I mean? I was the one that was kind of like, hey, I'm gonna be abstinent and wait till I'm married. I'm not gonna drink. I'm not gonna smoke. I'm gonna stay steadfast in that. Right?
Yeah.
It comes with, you gotta have some tough skin. Don't get me wrong, but when he did send me the group and the community of men around me that literally changed my life, it was the best thing for me.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I was thinking about this before we got to before you even got over here, just praying about this episode and just thinking about who you are, man, and what you embody. You know, it's almost like, bro, you are like that archetype, man, black excellence, dude. You are like taking dominion in life, man, living life to its fullest.
Yeah.
Bro, you inspire me in that sense. But then I was just thinking about your last name, bro. Like with a last name like King, you've kind of got to live up to it, though.
I mean, yeah, you gotta have to, and you know, I think that's what, you know, identity is so important, especially identity in Christ. And I want to say it was maybe 7-8 years now. Like he kind of gave me the whole tag of Christ is King, right?
Yeah,
like my Instagram name. Yeah. And it's literally Christopher Harrison King, but like pieces of it. And he always said, man, I feel like he told me that last name is important, right?
Wow,
being a king, that's who I created you to be. But that Christ in the beginning, if you always keep me first, you're gonna be good.
That's awesome,
that's why my tag is Christ is King, right? To just remind myself.
There's power in the name, man. All throughout the Bible, bro, you see these stories of, you know, either God gives them a name or, man, their parents just end up naming them something.
Right.
And then obviously we're a retrospect on the other side of it, knowing what that name means now. And you see that person walk out that, man. And I've just what you walk in, man, the anointing that you walk in, your brother walks in, you know, obviously it speaks to the confidence and the security that you had in college. Obviously speaks to having a father figure in your life.
Most definitely.
Which is so awesome to see. And, man, really encourages me with my own kids, you know, with me not having that and struggling probably in so many places that, I'm not saying you didn't struggle in. I don't know if you did or not. We'll probably get into that a little bit later.
We're going to find out.
But, man, it's just awesome. The fact of just a name, how it can, man, speak to somebody, you know. And then, I mean, you got this too, the name too. I was about to say something special about my name, but your name's Chris too. You know, the steadfastness for Christ. Yes. And, bro, I've had to live up to that name. Not that I've tried to live up to that name, but just through some of the experiences over the past 13 years of my life. I see now, this is the first time thinking about your name, I thought about the significance of my name, and I have no clue what Pamelia means. I think it's a flower or something. So that's probably why I got gold shoes on. So those that are trying to hate, you know, tattoos, probably got a different haircut every couple of months. I'm just living that flower name.
Right. Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that. But yeah, man, the name is so important, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's why today's society we struggle with so many different things, right? We're all trying to find that identity of why did God create me, right?
Yeah.
Who am I? And man, when God really reveals that to you, man, it's a game changer.
Yeah,
it really is.
Man. It is.
Yeah.
Bro, so you, man, 30 years old,
right?
Single. I'm not putting it, no ring on the finger, so we're calling it as it is, you know what I'm saying? As those that, I just realized, I don't have my ring on either. My wife's giving me faces. I didn't realize that's such a big deal that women look to see if you got a ring on your finger. So
I would think so. I mean,
the women that are watching this deal, I mean, he's single. But, man, just think about, man, the platform that God's given you, man, the influence that he's given you. But the fact that, man, you are in a world that is so countercultural. Talk about social media. Man, you've got, I don't know, a ton of followers. You're always doing stuff on social media. Yeah. But, man, social media is a world that is, man, lavished and soaked in promiscuity and sex and temptation. And yet you've been so outspoken. You know, I think that's cool, too, thinking about your dad and the significance of just how solid you are and who you are, you know, not apologizing for it. But you're pretty outspoken about being a virgin, about abstaining, about, man, the importance of that in your life.
Most definitely.
So just tell us a little bit about, man, what that is like being a 30-year-old. Because I see how it is, bro, and Man, I meet with so many single cats, and I'm like, dude, and you hear these horror stories about dating online.
Yeah.
Man, the temptations online, getting catfished online.
Yep.
You know,
It's a lot.
like that. I am just grateful that I'm sorry that I'm grateful that God snatched me out of that game before it got as wild as it is today, man. But what's it like to be a 30-year-old man trying to follow Jesus, man, with your whole life, you know, and existing in those platforms, in those spaces?
It's a beautiful thing, but it's also a very challenging thing.
Yeah.
Right. God has given me the grace in the community and the people and the resources to thrive in it. But man, like you said, there's a lot of temptations out there, right?
Yeah.
But what keeps me going forward, obviously the grace of God, but also understanding that, man, the calling and the destiny and the purpose that God has on my life, I can't take it lightly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can't. So I have to move with caution.
Yeah.
Right. Even through social media, and I have fun with it. Right. Like, have enjoyed the time, but I just can't. I can't just give myself to any and everybody.
Yeah.
Right. And I had made a covenant with God, and He's called me and equipped me to walk out the whole being a virgin until I'm married thing, right? And hopefully it's not too much longer, right? Being 30, but like
you hear him, God. You hear him, right?
Oh man,
help a brother out.
We was talking off camera, man. I'm telling you, I'm ready. But yeah, man. But I feel like there's young men that need to see it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That needs to see an attractive, successful, knows how to dress.
There is no role model for that. Now that I'm thinking about it,
right,
bro.
Right. I guess the first one you could think of is, I know when I was kind of going, it was Tebow, right? Like everybody, like that was kind of the product, right? And I was like, okay, cool. I guess I'm gonna be the black Tebow, then, right, without the Heisman. But yeah, like I just want to show like young men that, man, it's possible. It's possible to do it, and it's possible to look good doing it. Now that comes with a lot of stuff, right? Especially just from social media and all the temptations that's on there. You have to really discipline and train yourself for it, right?
Protecting that anointing.
Oh man.
I just got done reading through the story of Samson, man, and that's such a sobering story. You're talking about exactly that. A dude with the call of God on his life like none other, and he dealt lightly with what, man, was a very heavy thing.
Yeah.
And then it says eventually, he went to shake off the chains like he had before and didn't realize that the Spirit of God had left him.
Yeah. Man, that's so scary to me.
That's a scary
thought. Oh man, that's a scary. And if you look at biblically, but you also look at just in the world today, man, the downfall of a lot of great men was their inability to control their sexual urges.
Yeah.
Like, think about that. The downfall of so many.
Man, in Bible college, the 3 G's.
Yep.
Gold, girls, and glory.
Man, and it really does a number, right? And I was like, man, I'm not going out like that. I can't go out like that, right? Not that I'm gonna be perfect in anything in life, right? But I'm not going out like that. Yeah.
To have that perspective though is so huge, man. And dude, I haven't even really comprehended just what a significant figure and blessing you are to, man, so many young guys today. Because we talk about, man, it really is. There's a book, Return of the Gods, that talks about basically, I haven't read it. I've just talked about it a lot because I've heard a lot of people that have read it talk about it. But they talk about, Baal. And Baal was the god that was significant all throughout the Gentile land. But Baal was a sex god. Yeah. And, man, people, like, you start to read the Bible, and without context, you get kind of twisted because you're like, the shrine prostitute from the temple. And you're like, they got prostitutes in their temple? You know what I'm saying? What kind of church is that? I've been to some churches like that, actually.
Today's world, I bet.
But really, man, you see this infiltration, man, especially even in the inner city and black communities of, man, and it's everywhere. But I'll just only say that because I think of a young man, that I've been speaking into his life since he was, 10 years old. He's almost like a son to me. But I remember, man, now being probably, I don't know how old Derek is, 23, something like that. And he came to me the other day after church and was like, dude, I had never been told in my life that I was supposed to find the love and fulfillment that my heart desired from God and not from a person or from a female. You know, so you have that lack of knowledge, even biblically or Christianity wise, mixed with an over glorification of sex everywhere, man.
Everywhere you turn.
Dude, it's like it's getting ridiculous out there.
Yeah, it really is.
Dude, I follow Squat University, which is this thing that I started. It sounds nasty when I'm talking about it, but it's literally
fitness. I'm assuming. Yeah,
for working out. Like this dude teaches. He's like a doctor, kinesiology, and teaches the physics of squatting and the importance of it, whatnot. And then all of a sudden, man, and I do. It's hard, man. Even as a married man that's trying to stay pure online, bro, you've got to be vigilant.
You have to.
And all of a sudden, I started having these squat videos pop up, and it's not
random.
This kinesiology doctor in his oversized basketball shorts. And I'm like, what is going on? But this dude started to realize he gets more clicks if he starts his video with some promiscuous girl working out. That has nothing to do with the stuff he's about to talk about. It's just clickbait, man. And we live in a world that is full of it's clickbait, man. It's a bait and you don't see the hook behind it.
Right.
And you know, it's just so easy to fall into that, man. And it's a wild, and I mean, dude, and honestly for me, I didn't, you know, obviously so where social media and technology is today, back when I was growing up, you had to like go to the store and buy a magazine.
Yeah, most definitely.
Or like you had to have a VHS tape that somebody stole from their uncle.
Yeah, you had to find a way to get access to it.
You had to be desperate for it, and now you've got to be desperate to not want it, to not fall into it.
Right.
Man. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's interesting how that switched, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, you have to be desperate and go out your way to find it and to get it. But now, like you said, you have to be desperate to kind of do the opposite, right? Because I know for me, that whole situation, that whole, I guess, hook that the enemy kind of puts in us, or we allow him to put it in us, happened around, I think usual age, preteen, teenage years, right? Like right before you go into high school, the hormones kick in and you don't necessarily know what's happening, but through locker room talk, the older guys talking and stuff, you get curious, and then you look up and you got the hook in you, right? And then I know for me, I don't think I've got knowledge that it was like a bad thing in terms of porn, in terms of masturbation and stuff like that, until like when I started getting maybe like a junior and senior in high school, to where it was like, oh, bro, like this can be detrimental, right? Because when you first do it, it's just like, oh, I'm just curious. I'm just trying to,
and that's how like
figure it out.
For me, you hear that locker room talk, and then for me, man, I lived with a single mom, raised me. Very sheltered. Like I think I've said this on that before. For the longest time, man, probably even until beginning puberty, like I thought sex had something to do with a belly button. I had no one to show me what it was like.
Yeah.
So I'd hear these things, and being a man in that age, a boy at that age, you've got insecurities, so you want to make sure that you're proven to be knowledgeable, or so man, you fake it till you make it, and then you go get curious and try to figure out things so that you can come back and fake it till you make it. And it just becomes that black hole that sucks you in, man. And I didn't even struggle with it really, honestly, I don't think, until I did, which is it's cool. I'm happy that, you being a single guy and me being married, get to talk about this together. Because most people think once you're no longer single.
I've thought that. So, yeah.
But I didn't struggle with it or have issue with it until actually I got married.
Wow.
And a couple years into our marriage, and just seeing how devastating it can be. Pornography, man, the trap that it is, the drug that it becomes. So man, I didn't mean to cut you off. So you were preteen, man, get exposed to this whole deal, and then how does that evolve into for you Like, and I guess it's be cool too. Hopefully, this thing will be very freeing to guys because guys don't ever talk about this. I'm starting to get almost uncomfortable asking.
No, you're good. You're good.
But let's blow the norm out of the
let's
water.
Get it out there.
You know what I'm saying?
People need to know this, right? Especially the young men. You gotta get this information, and because we're trying to save you from a life, years of battling that thing. So for me, in all transparency, when I was in high school, I was just like every other high school guy. I was trying to have sex. I was trying to find a way to make it happen, right? But for some reason, it was like God was just blocking it. But and looking back, obviously, I'm so glad He did that. Yeah. But
grace, man.
But the other side of that, yes, He was blocking it, but now I was finding the satisfaction in that, right? And watching porn and masturbating and stuff like that, because I was like, all right, well, I gotta, it's addicting, right? Because you get that fix, and it's like, all right, well, I need more of that, I need more of that, and more of that. Yeah. And then you hear all the older guys and the other guys in the locker room, they having these experiences, right? And then you start liking older women in high school, right? The seniors and juniors, and you like, okay, I gotta know what I'm doing. But that's it all stems from, like you said, whether it's just you trying to prove yourself or you trying to have that validation, or just trying to really get that experience under your belt, right? So for me, that's when it started. And then college was a battle, right? Because this is when I made the decision to wait till marriage, right? And to abstain from sex. So then the enemy was like, okay, cool. You want to abstain from sex? Oh, man, because he was like, you know what? Well, at least you're not having sex. Yeah. Right? And that was for...
tiptoeing up to that line.
Man, and that was the justification, right? Yeah. It was like, how far, because I think we've all been at this in some area, right? How close can I get to the line without really sinning? Yeah. Right? And it was just like, okay, well, at least I'm not having sex. Yeah. Right? At least I'm not doing X, Y, and Z like everybody else, but I was still indulging in that every time. And it got so bad, man, me and two of my friends in college, like, it felt like it was a direct correlation with football, right? So it was like, we would try to go and abstain, like, from masturbating anything. And it was like, when we mess up, we just like, oh, man, I'm about to have a bad game. Oh, I just know I'm about to have a bad...
I got the juju.
Oh, man. And to be honest, sometimes that happened. Like, it was just like, bro, you was doing so good, and maybe it was the lack of testosterone or whatever you want to call it, but it just affected.
Which is funny. You talk about the scientific side of it, like the physiological hormones. You truly do. Your testosterone.
It's real. It's real.
Your dopamine drops.
Oh man, and it's like you don't. Because you know what it's like, especially when you're playing football or something that's a contact sport. You know what it's like when you're on the high and you did the workouts and you're like, all right, man, I can run. I'm feeling good, right? Yeah. And then you know what it's like when you don't, right? I don't know, man. I had some teammates, they'll say, man, before a game, they'd go out and have sex and stuff. I'm like, bro, how? Like, how do you have the energy? And they go out and perform and like have like 10 catches for like 120 yards. And I'd be like, bro, I don't know about you. I can't do that, right? I can't even, indulge in this.
Different stock.
For real. But, yeah, man, it was just a battle. It was just a battle every single day. Although going to BCM and FCA and Refuge and all these different things we did in college, that was the consistent battle. It was like, okay, you're in college, surrounded by women, have access to women, you're handsome, football player, but how do you deny them? But then on the other side, deny yourself as well. Yeah. That's the battle, man.
Yeah, that's a lot. Man, I couldn't imagine, well, I say I can't imagine, but honestly, bro, I can't imagine because I have been there, man. And just seeing that the effect that it has on you, man, as a man, as a person. What really been cool recently, man, is I'm starting to see not even just about pornography, but even premarital sex or sex outside of I don't know what secular people call it, like a serious relationship. Man, they're talking about the harm that it does, which is really weird to hear from a secular deal because we went through this whole deal. Even though there's sex on every single page everywhere. There is a group of people that are secular, and man, they're starting to realize just how devastating porn addiction, man, how devastating sex addiction, how devastating these things can have effect on your life, man. So I just know for me, like, even the shame of it, man, being locked in that cage.
Man, there's so many different aspects that it touches. And I don't think, because you're doing it for pleasure, right? But I don't think you really understand like how deep it goes, right?
Yeah.
Even from a mental standpoint of one, understanding that this is not even real, right? Like you're literally training yourself to find pleasure in something that's not even real, right? And then you have the aspect of, okay, it's literally pulling you away from God, literally, right? Because if our bodies are a temple, right, for the Holy Spirit to dwell in, that act is literally pulling you away from God. Then now it puts, I think you can maybe touch on this, but like it puts certain expectations on your wife or being in a relationship because you're indulging in this put together picture, right? That is not even accurate.
Yeah. It's not realistic by any means.
By any means. And it touches everything, right?
And you talk about, man, biblically, obviously, most people know, the Bible talks about two become one. Two flesh become one in the act of sex. And obviously, with pornography, it's not the act of sex, but you still are opening your soul and becoming intimate with something.
Yes.
And, it's like, man, I heard somebody, a preacher the other day, back when I grew up, they used the examples, which they probably did them in bad taste, of talking about the flower, and every time you give a part of your body away, you become this flower, and now you're losing petals and this and that. And it's not that God can't redeem and give you those petals back or whatever,
right.
you know what I'm saying? But you are, man, giving a piece of your soul to something, and the soul sucking pain that it brings. And like you said, it separates you from God,
And, we talk about that, especially in the Christian community. We always kind of direct that towards women, right? Like, oh, well, having sex before marriage, you're kind of maybe losing your purity. You're losing
For a man, it's almost like an accolade.
Right. But the reality is, man, I think to a certain extent, man, it's doing more damage with you, right? As a man, because you're giving away your seed, your destiny, your purpose, right?
Yeah.
And it's not, a lot of times, it's not even for a good reason.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just because you just didn't want to discipline your body and you wanted, 30 minutes or whatever of pleasure,
30
right?
minutes.
I didn't want to, it's just put
He's a single man.
Right? Yeah. But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but it
sure.
really, I think we have to get back and either get back or get there, right? To letting men know, young men know, man, just having from porn to masturbation to even sex before marriage, you're literally giving away your power, right?
And it's back to that, like, your last name being King. But I love that, man, the new movement of trying to speak to young men as if they are kings.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And realize,
because they are.
Man, you've got a legacy to protect.
Right.
Man, you've got something to offer to this world to protect and to discipline your body and to, keep yourself pure. Because, man, you do. I mean, we find ourselves, I meet with multiple guys all the time that, they find themselves in their 30s, in their 40s, and, they've been with so many women and they realize, or so many TV screens or whatever it is they're watching stuff on, and they want to know why their life is in pieces, why they feel like their soul is in pieces.
Man.
And it's just such a gut-wrenching thing, man. And like you said, man, it pulls you away from God.
And a lot of times you don't realize it until after the fact.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and that's how the devil works sometimes. Like before you commit the sin, it's like, oh, it's no big deal. Like, you're good.
Yeah.
After, to be like, oh man, well, that's a wrap. God don't love you no more, right? So I know for me, one of my best friends, like one of my spiritual mentors in college, actually, but he told me like last year, he was like, Chris, your anointing, right? Your destiny, your purpose is directly attached to your purity and your walk in that, right? So once he said that, I was like, okay, it makes sense now.
Yeah.
Right? And I always wonder, like, man, why you calling me to this, right? Like, is it just just so I can get a good wife, or just to speak to young kids, or like what is it? And then, when he kind of really said that, I guess he always knew it. I don't know why he just now told me, but he was like, yeah, Chris, like that's why, right? And even now, for some reason, God always told me, and I guess it's coming into my memory right now, is like, man, you'll know you're ready to be a husband when we defeat these things.
Yeah.
Right? You know what
awesome.
I mean?
Yeah,
and I was like, okay.
Because at the same time, man, God's grace has been on you. But at the same time, he's got to protect his daughters, too.
Oh,
And
man.
he's got to protect his daughters from, man, the pain. I would think, and I wasn't even planning on talking about this, man, but the pain of having to, me and Alice, when we got married, man, we made it to the finish line, didn't have sex. And, man, I married Allison as a virgin, which is like the grace of God. But having to have those conversations with the girl that I am most in love with and want to give my life to, and she has, saved herself, and we've even fought to get to our wedding night. And I have to have those conversations of this girl and that girl, and that's such a hard, gut-wrenching thing for me, to have to do, let alone I couldn't imagine what it's like on the other side of that. It's heartbreaking, and it's God's trying to protect us from having those conversations, those hard things. And man, I think about that it really is, man. It's excitement, and it really. You talk about pornography and the addiction it is. It's a dopamine addiction,
most definitely.
And it is this big build up of excitement, and man, want to run through a wall to get what you want to get until it's over. And then it is the biggest, I think the best picture of it, man, is that picture of Adam in the garden. Man, it says that they walked with God in the cool of the day, and then they ate the apple from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Right.
God's trying to protect us from even knowing the knowledge of the evil that's within us. Not just protect us from the evil, but it's the knowledge, because it's that knowledge of realizing how shameful and how evil we can be that brings about that shame. And then he eats from the apple, and then he goes and hides. That's what we do, bro. That's what we do. After you just want to stick your head in the ground and you want to hide, and that shame comes in. And that's why I think man, Jesus paid enough. He paid enough on the cross. Man, you're covered, Your salvation is covered. It's not a fight for our salvation as men anymore, as we're believers and followers of Jesus, but it's a fight for our strength. It's a fight for our power, for us to be able to walk with our heads high and be able to walk out the calling that God has on our life.
Because if the devil can't stop you from giving your life to God, he's going to stop your destiny and what you're supposed to be able to do. Or at the very least, hinder it or slow it down, right? I know for me, especially when I really think about, why would I indulge in these things and in porn and masturbation and stuff? And it's like, I believe the root of every sin, right, that the devil, and you can talk about Adam and Eve, right, that he tries to convince us of is, do you really trust God?
Yeah, always.
Right? And I think about that, it's like, a lot of times I've did it because I was like, man, I'm just tired of waiting, or God, I'm not getting married anytime soon, or that woman's so far off, it's not gonna make a difference, or whatever the case may be. And you really ask yourself, do I really trust God with my wife? Do I really trust God that he's going to bring her to me, that he's going to protect her, that he's going to, that is going to be everything I want and need plus more, right? And then, the enemy kind of convinces you, like, come on, man. Like, you wait until you, come on, man. Like, just have fun or do whatever, right? And when I really got to the point where it was like, especially I would say this year, it's just been more of a focus of mine, right? Matthew 6:33, seeking his kingdom and living in righteousness, and just trusting him that all these things, the wife, the career, the impact, the purpose, all these things will be given to you if you do these things first, right? And as I searched and did these things, porn and masturbation, that was one of the things that had to go. Right. And now being 30, I finally, Not that I'm just immune to it, like I'm a superhuman, but
as soon as you think you're immune,
right, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I feel like we defeated it. I feel like the spirit finally and it was some battling since you said puberty. So I finally feel like, man, we beat it. You know what I mean?
Talking about that trust piece, I feel like I guess maybe around 30-ish too. And obviously, guys, honestly, you look at a man's brain until he's about 25, scientists say you're basically certified crazy. The amount of hormones and whatnot. But I guess it was about 30 for me. Not that I became not crazy, but probably so. But that I started to look at that trust piece and see, because we grow up with the 10 Commandments and getting told not to do these things.
Yep.
And we never truly, even in churches, they don't necessarily tell you the why. They just tell you the what not to do.
Right.
Because God told you not to do it.
Yep.
And now I begin to see in maturity a little more of the why. It's God's love. And you read through the Psalms and David's like, man, I love the law of the Lord. I'm like, the law sucks, man. The law is what takes all the fun out of it. But then you start to look at the ramifications of the things that God's trying to protect you from, man.
That's the key right there.
And that is the why. Man, he knows, it's really trusting him that he created me and he knows what's best for me. Even though there's things shouting at me, telling me that this is what's really good for me. And I just know, man, the hole that it digs. I've had to meet with guys that, man, I mean, you're talking, he called me and be like, man, it's a good day. Only 7 times today.
Right.
And this is a guy who had everything before him. Man, had a wife, had a family, man, had money, and to watch it all. And, pornography doesn't usually get I don't know if it's because it's in the closet or what, but it destroys marriages. It destroys lives. I'm talking about dopamine-wise. This guy was so stuck to pornography that he couldn't get out of bed to go to work.
So for my single guys, I must ask you this, right?
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of times sometimes we don't really understand because we're not married. How does watching porn really affect a marriage?
Yeah. Oh, you talk about that shame piece, man. It's one thing to be ashamed and hiding from God. It's another thing to be ashamed and hiding from your wife and God. Because then you're just in the house by yourself. You know what I'm saying? And you become, I feel like sin is always trying to divide us.
Yeah.
It's always trying to have us live in 2 separate lives, especially in marriage. Man, the devil, as soon as you begin, it says not to let him in. A stronghold starts with a crack in the door.
Yep.
But you start to live a secret life of, I'm just going to, whether it be porn, drugs, man, shopping. It's been at times my wife will attest to. My wife used to be so mad. When did you get those? Why you didn't tell me you got those? But, man, he's always trying to let you live this secret life. Because as long as you're living a secret life, you'll never truly walk in what you're called to. But I remember, man, this is before I was in ministry at all, and we were married a couple years, and part of it too was, I got into this deal hoping to be in ministry, and I wanted, to walk in ministry and to be a pastor and all these things. And honestly, at that point, it looked like all of my dreams had failed. I began to doubt the promise of God. I got myself fired from a ministry job that I had, and I went to looking for something probably to escape and to cope, man. And I would get home before Allison would. And, that was that time where I would go and hide. And, talking about coming into the false perception that pornography gives you of what marriage and sex in a marriage looks like. A lot of times you think this is what it's going to look like. And it don't look like that, my brother. It don't. And so I have all this stuff that the devil starts to speak to you. Oh, you deserve this. This didn't go the way that's not going the way it's supposed to. And dude, it was
I've experienced that part too.
Before she got home, that was my thing, my go-to. And it got to such a bad place that I couldn't, when that thing flips, where it's like when you really don't want to do it anymore, and you still can't, to be completely, and that's what addiction is, drug addiction too, to be a slave to your own flesh is a tough place to be in.
Right. And then after you would just feel like disgusted. You would
Oh
just be
man,
like, bro, why the heck did I? You know what I mean?
You
Because you
ask
know better.
any man what it's like after, and he'll tell you, "I feel weak.
Yeah.
I feel powerless."
Yeah.
And that's the exact opposite of what Jesus died and rose from the grave for us to feel. And honestly, I just got to a place where, like you said, man, when you start to realize, man, this thing is trying to kill you.
Exactly.
This thing is trying to kill your seed. It's trying to kill your
Generations.
marriage. It's trying to kill everything.
And then it's not only trying to just kill that, it's trying to seep into the next generation and the next generation.
Yeah.
And the next. So they're going to be battling with these curses because you didn't just say, you know what? No, it stops with me.
And you look at the way that the world's turning now, and what you do in moderation, your kids will do in excess because they have more access to it. And it's before their
You
faces.
think it's bad now. I can only imagine when, speaking it, right, my kids grow up and stuff, they're, the world they're going to be living in, they're going to really have
like
to be
AI robots in front of
Right. The access is going to be crazy. Yeah.
But I remember getting to a place where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And it was almost the same feeling that I was being on drugs, of just, man, knowing that this thing is killing me and I can't resist myself. And, dude, I got to a place where I'd start to get home and I would not go upstairs. We lived in the kind of a loft apartment, and it was very humbling to be a grown man, to be like, I can't trust myself upstairs by myself. And I would stay downstairs, and I got into CrossFit, and I would work out until my wife got home. And I don't know if she knows this even now, but people look at you like, man, you must love working out. I'm like, no, I just love sin.
People, hey, I remember one time we first met. I think we went to like the retreat. He was like, "Man, Chris, like you always so swell." I was like, "Bro, because I'm a virgin waiting till marriage. I gotta find a way to use this energy.
I gotta
somehow.
discipline this,
right?"
flesh,
But that's real, right? You have to, if you're trying to beat any stronghold, but especially we talking about lust and pornography and stuff, you have to not only just say, I'm sick and tired, I'm done with it, and use that grace of God, but you're going to have to replace it with constructive, things that can, edify you, right? I know for me, it was art and painting and writing poetry and working out, right? Because if you don't replace it, the idle mind is the devil's playground, right?
The demon, when he comes back and finds a house swept clean.
Exactly.
And it says sevenfold.
Bring more.
Back.
Right. And you'd be like, what the heck is going on? Yeah. So you have to replace it with constructive things. Man, get into photography, get into art, get into reading a book, man. Do something, right? Or go hang out with your boys. Go play football, go pick up a basketball game or something, whatever the case may be. But you have to find a way to replace that with something that's going to be edifying and kind of lift you up. Because if you don't, like you said, you're leaving the space open for demons to come back.
And that's why I think a lot of guys, we fall into it. I've been praying through this whole theory of, man, you're talking about men, from the beginning. God said, man, take dominion. Like, this is your life. This is your world. Have your way at it. Have fun. You know what I'm saying?
Power and authority.
Have a life. Build something. Create something. And we've so minimized, man, who we are as people to, let's just go work a 9-to-5 job to get a 3-bedroom house with a white picket fence. And guys go to work, and then they come home, and they go to work, and they come home, and they have no outlets. They have no place to feel like a man. They have no creativity. They have nothing they're building. So guys find themselves no purpose. They're desperate for a thrill.
And that's all the devil needs. That's all the devil needs to be like, all right, cool, try that.
And it is, man. It's exciting at first. It's an adventure. Even that whole living a secret life.
Right.
We get a little excitement in being a bad boy, doing whatever, you know what I'm saying? And then, man, it just kills you.
Slowly, without even realizing it.
Yeah.
And then you wake up one day and it's like, man, how did they even get here, right? Like you said, there's some people that has lost money, like lost fortunes, right?
Guys pay money. I'm like, dude, it's free on the internet.
Oh, I never understood that. I'm not gonna lie, I never understood why people.
Me neither,
but I guess when it hits you, and like you said, if that's your release, or when things bad, go bad at your job, or things not working with your wife, and that's your release, then you're gonna keep
Sin is never satisfied. It only grows.
Never.
So it'll only take you deeper. and you start to hear about some of this freak stuff that
And you start you start with
and you realize that that flesh is never satisfied. So you got to go deeper.
Right.
You got to go weirder. You got to go stranger, man. Now all this stuff is blowing up with all these celebrities. I wouldn't even think about getting on all this.
I can only imagine. And then, like you said, the devil he don't have rules, right?
Yeah.
So it starts off with porn, but then now you're training your mind, right? Mm-hmm. And then let's say you and your wife get angry or not seeing odds, and then this woman at work is just showing you, oh man, and now it's a real opportunity for it, right? And now you just like, oh, well, it can't hurt to go out, right? Mm-hmm. And then one thing, like that's all he needs, right? So those seeds, we have to kill it, like you said, take dominion and take authority over it when they're small. Because if you let it, I think it says somewhere that in the word, right? If you let the sin kind of grow and grow,
a little bit of yeast ruins the whole dough,
ruins everything.
Yeah. So what did that look like for you as far as just getting to that place of being sick and tired, like to decide, hey, I really need to. Because it can easily become one of those things you dismiss as like a passive sin. I'm just a man.
Right,
this is what I'm going to struggle
because
with.
Because in Pastor JT was talking about this in Bible study. He was like, man, sometimes, God will give you over to the sin, right? Yeah. And you don't have conviction. Like you said, you justify, I'm just a man, man. Like, sin. But no, for me, it got to the point where it was like, one, I guess I finally trusted what God was saying is like, man, you're not getting your wife until you beat this, right? And I was like, last year definitely taught me, bro, if you want this, if you want her, you're gonna have to get right? Yeah. And it was all right, bet. So that kind of sparked it a little bit, but also the fact of, man, I just got so tired and I wanted to see, God, what's on the other side of this, right? You know what I mean? Because I didn't want to just keep wondering, 30 to 40 to 50.
Yeah.
Well, what if I would have did it then? Or what if I would have defeated it then? Or what if we would have, did whatever, just been obedient and walked in it? What could have been on the other side of this? And I'm not saying this works this way, but what if, that $1 million idea would have came? Yeah. Right? What if the clothing line would have blown up? What if, that $1 million case would have came? Who knows, right? Maybe it's just your obedience that put you in an environment or put your heart in a posture to where you're ready to receive it. But if you never do it, if you've never done the work, you're just gonna be wondering, and you're gonna be complaining to God, why I never did this, or why I never experienced this, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, bro,
it's that stewardship.
That's what it is.
If steward will with what I have given you, why am I gonna give you more?
Exactly.
Because it'll break you.
Man, if you can't be a steward over your own body and your own mind, discipline your mind, what makes you think of it like this, that the God Almighty is going to give you one of his daughters?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I started thinking of it like that, right? Like, would I present this to God?
Yourself.
Right.
Why is he going to let you damage somebody?
And would I just say, oh, God, I know you told me this is my wife, and I believe this is my wife, but, like, this is what I'm giving you.
Yeah.
You think he would be like, okay, cool. Yeah. Like, no right father would do that.
Dude, when you think about biblically, like, you had to bring cows and herds in order to deserve that girl. You had to bring them to her dad and say, hey, is this worthy of an offering to get your daughter? Man. And it's the same way that we live in today with God being our heavenly Father. I never thought about that.
Yeah, man. And I think of, correct me if I'm wrong, Jacob, right? And Sarah, right? I always get the names mixed up so much. That he had to spend, was it 14? It was 14 years, right?
Leah and Rachel,
right.
7 years, then another 7 years.
Man, like, think about that. Are you willing to put the work in 14 years, kind of like what I've been struggling with this, to really say, you know what? Like, this is what I say, this is what God has for me, this beautiful, gift, right? Are you willing to put the work in, to die to yourself? Because I think as men, we have to learn that principle, whether it's in finances, whether it's in buying shoes, whether it's in, loving your wife, whether it's in, killing out porn. You have to learn how to die to yourself, right? If you don't, I don't think you can ever become the man that God has called you to be.
He put in 7 years, and all he got the girl with the crazy eyes. Man. He had to put in 14 for the good thing.
Man, you know what I'm saying? He had to. So, I always think of it like that.
So what did that look like for you? Was that all right, because I think this is where a lot of people get it twisted, or maybe no, they don't. I don't know. What did it look like? Was it like a, hey, God, man, God just break this thing off of you and it was gone? Or was it like
it was
digging through the mud type deal?
For the majority of my life, I mean, I would say, especially since college, it's been a digging through the mud, right? Trying to get the apps, Bible study, this, like literally tried everything, right? And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. That constant battle. But within this last year, like you said, I mean, I think I just got sick and tired of it. Like I just was disgusted at it. You know what I mean? And I was like, God, I'm tired of not experiencing the life you have for me because of this temporary thing that I'm constantly going back to. Like you said, it even says in the word, like it's like you're going back to your vomit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just got disgusted of it. And I was like, you know what, God? No more. Like, no. Like I gotta find and prepare myself, like really prepare myself for my wife, for my kids, and breaking off these generational. I don't know. Maybe it just clicked when I was 30, and it was just like, it's the time is now.
I think it's a desperation, man. Desperation, I feel like, is a labor of love in itself. You know what I'm saying? Like law will never change somebody. Only love will change somebody. Only your heart will change your habits.
That's real.
But I feel like, when you get desperate enough to show your love for God, your trust for God, and there is a piece of, it's not like God's just going to break it off for me. Man, I had to learn to discipline my flesh.
Yeah.
Like you said, die to yourself. Man, do the opposite of what you feel like doing.
Man.
And man, that's why working out's become such a big thing for me is, man, if I can go make myself run a mile when I don't feel like running a mile.
You can't do that?
I can it'd make it easier for me to not look when I feel like looking.
Exactly.
Or to not pick up my phone when I want to pick up my phone. I love Paul, man. Paul said, I make my flesh a slave to me. And it truly is, man. As men, we're either going to be a slave to our flesh or we're going to be a slave to our flesh, or our flesh is going to be a slave to us.
Right.
And man, that whole thought of nothing changes. You got to do something. You got to do something because it'll kill you, man.
Yeah, and then after you do something, now you got to be proactive, right?
Yeah.
So now it's kind of like, you have a house and you have a family, right? And you have a dog, but you also have an alarm system, right? You also have, locks on the doors. You have things set in place to where, man, if any enemy comes, in your space to threaten your family, bro, you got things set in place. And I think we need to do a better job of obviously doing that physically, especially in terms about porn and masturbation, but also like in the spirit.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Like we got to start praying about these things and we got to start casting out these demons and staying filled with the spirit, right? Because when you do that, just like the tale of the two wolves, right? When you're constantly feeding that spirit, you don't even have the desire anymore. Hey, I'm going to say this because this was a game changer for me. And this probably, I don't hate to admit it, but it clicked, right? When I kind of changed what I'm listening to, that changed it, man.
Oh,
I'm not gonna lie. Like, and I'm a fan of, hip hop, rap, neo soul, all these different things.
Yeah.
But when I just started realizing how much of a subconscious effect it had, not always a conscious, right? But a subconscious effect it had, man, it really changed, right? So like now, like I implemented a rule, right? We listen to straight gospel before 12. Right, like before 12, like noon.
Like before 12 at night.
Noon. Before noon. So when you wake up,
turn it up.
So before noon, that's all we listen to, right?
Yeah.
And then after, I would, listen to some jazz or some, R&B or something like that. I like my rapper hip hop intake went from like, I would say 80 to 20, right, being rap, to now it's like 80 gospel and like, maybe 10% now. Like
music's
like
powerful, bro. I will tell you straight up, like obviously back in my heyday when I was really out there, dude, I would listen to like, man, if I was going to re-up, if I was going to buy dope, Young Jeezy was on.
Yeah.
Man, I would put it on intentionally. It just puts you in that space.
That mood, that space,
I was going to rob somebody.
Like
I was listening to Waka Flocka.
Right.
Waka Flocka ain't even music. It's just music to rob people too. But music is such a spiritual power. And not even that, but what you put in.
Right.
I know so many guys that I've had to sit down with that are struggling with porn, and I oversee them looking on their phone, and they follow nothing but bikini models, bro.
Man.
And I'm like, dude, you looking at this all day long? Of course,
Go
you
hit not interested, right? I don't know if you can think. I don't know if you know how to do this, right? You can go on Instagram, go on your For You
I
page,
become a pro.
hit not interested, not interested, not interested.
It's gonna keep trying
every 5 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, you do a squat or some fitness. You'll see all the things you ain't supposed to see. So you gotta constantly be proactive in doing that. And you know, I know even for me, right? And you know, I'm a model, right? So I'm kind of in that
Space,
in that space, but I've made a challenge to myself, man. Like no bikini pics.
Yeah.
Like even if it's
Pics of
you
you
know,
in
even if
bikinis?
it's like no, what? No.
Like that's a good
but any woman, right? Like
Yeah.
no, even
like
if
no
it's a
pics
fitness
with
thing.
you and a girl in bikini. What
Wait,
you're
say it
saying?
again?
Like no pics of you with a girl in a
No,
bikini.
definitely not. No, not. But picture of me liking any
I
women
got you.
on
Yeah.
none. And I don't care if it's a fitness thing. We're not doing it,
Yeah.
right? Because, and not saying it's not a good pick or anything like that, or it's just going to put me in a. But I just have to start training.
Chris is trying to say he liked your pick. You know, he just wasn't gonna like
It's
it.
a nice pick, right? I mean, I could. Hey, it's a beautiful
But
woman.
you didn't
Nothing
want to
wrong with that.
endorse it. You don't
Exactly.
wanna
I don't
endorse
want to.
that.
I don't want to put myself because I'm a firm believer, and I've been on the other side of this, right? Like people see a picture and they want to blame you for what you posting, but I'm a very accountability type of guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, bro. I the one who clicked it.
Yeah.
I the one who constantly looking at it. They can post whatever they post. That's on them.
Yeah.
But you have to train your eyes, right? That's just holding yourself accountable. And I just got to the point where it's like, no, we got to take it up a notch.
Yeah. You got to protect yourself, man. And then part of that too is obviously having people around you. Man, there is that spiritual accountability, having that relationship with God. Man, the more good food you eat, you like how it makes you feel, so you're not going to want the junk.
Yep.
But then there's that piece of, man, I think that's a big game breaker, a game changer for guys, is, man, when you let that cat out of the bag, man. Because the devil loves to make things grow in the dark.
Most definitely.
Mold grows in the dark. Cancer grows in the dark.
Power of your testimony.
You know, and when you get that out of just, and maybe this is for somebody that's watching right now that's struggling, you know what I'm saying? Whenever you tell somebody, you confess it. You know, James is clear. He says, confess your sins to God, you'll be forgiven. Confess your sins to your brother, and you'll be healed.
Yeah.
Man, I don't need just forgiveness. I need to be walking around whole. I ain't trying to be forgiven but broken up in pieces, you know? And, man, whenever I love that. I think I talked about that somewhere before. Shame the devil, tell the truth.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because the devil wants to live in you to live in your shame. But when you let somebody else know, hey, I'm struggling with this, typically 9 out of times out of 10, as a dude, they're gonna look back at you and say, "Man, I've been there,
And I'm
I'm
still there. Yeah.
But then that shame disappears, man, because you realize, man, we're all just broken people trying to follow Jesus.
Right.
You know, we all need each other. We all need Jesus. We need grace. You know, but being able to lean on people and have people ask you those right questions is huge.
Yeah, I think it's literally a game changer, right? Because you know the community, right? I want to say it even says, you know, through the blood of Jesus and the power of our testimony, right?
Yeah.
That we can defeat them, right?
Yeah.
That we can defeat the enemy, and
Most
that's
people
why,
see that though, and they only think the good testimony.
right,
Yeah,
right. It's I think, man, and I think sometimes the church, we do a disservice to people, and we don't be 100% real and transparent and let people know, bro, I've struggled with this. Yeah, this is bad, ugly, and everything in between, right? But I've struggled with this because, and the reality is, we all have something.
Yeah.
We all have something.
And I feel like leadership-wise, it's such a tricky thing, bro, because I love keeping it real. But then keeping it real doesn't always get the likes and the followers and the people that are like, oh, I want to be like you.
Right.
So even as a pastor, man, it's hard sometimes to, you know, I'm made of flesh, man. Obviously, I want to be successful as a pastor. Success looks like what? People wanting to follow you or attracted to you or whatever, which is not supposed to. It's supposed to be about following Jesus through you. But let's just talk about the world how it is today. You know, people are always looking for a savior in a man instead of in God.
Yep.
So they're looking for somebody that looks perfect to try to be like, but then they realize they can never be like them, and it just knocks them down a notch.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And keeps them stuck, man.
I'm sure you can appreciate that when you're vulnerable and when you're transparent with certain people and they can resonate with you. I think it hits a whole lot more.
That's all I got, man. It's just keeping it real, bro. I just love Jesus, man. He changed my life, and man, I want to see it happen to other people.
Yeah.
'Cause that's where freedom is, man. And there is life after this thing. And dude, it's been great, man, to be able to have that thing behind you. I bet you.
Man, oh man, it's the feeling of just knowing, man. It's like, because I mean, it touches so many things that you don't even know. Like even in my dreams, sometimes like I would wake up like flinching, like just when I would do that, right? And it's like to be able to sleep peaceful, right, and to be able to live life without worrying, like, okay, did I do that? Oh dang, or just waiting for the moment God's like, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna take my hand off of you, right? And just to have that peace and assurance, and it's like, okay, we are walking righteously with God, right? And to have that security, man, you can't beat it, right?
Yeah.
You really can't. And I want to encourage anybody, any young man or woman, right? Because this ain't just a man thing, but man, like you can beat it.
Yeah.
I know sometimes it don't feel like it.
You. Yeah.
I know for me, sometimes it's like, bro, there's no way. Like
Hey, if we can access it, they can get it, bro.
Bro, you can beat it,
Yeah.
right? Like it's possible through the spirit of the Holy Spirit to confessing, to having accountability partners, to disciplining your mind, your eyes, your body.
Yeah.
You can win.
Yeah.
Like you can literally beat this thing, but it's a fight.
Yeah.
It's a battle. Like if you scared of the fight, you might as well even sign up, right?
Yeah.
You can lay up, but man, if you're a man, one, you created to be a warrior. So put your armor of God and get ready to fight.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too. I think a lot of guys go to it to feel like a man because they're not doing enough things that make them feel manly. But we're created for a fight. Get up and fight.
Yeah.
Watch how it makes you feel when you get victory.
Man.
That's what we're truly called. You know, devil's always trying to create a counterfeit.
Right.
But, man, freedom's for you. Man, we are for you, seriously. And I don't know if we're going to do this, but reach out to us, man. Reach out to me. Find me, Chris Pamilia on Instagram, Facebook.
Chris King, Christ is King,
Christ is
ESQ,
King.
man, hit it. Like, we're here to help, right?
Yeah.
We're here to encourage y'all, even if it's a word, if it's accountability, even if we gotta, I know we can, we work out. We got to get in your face and get on you, right? Because sometimes that's what you need. You don't always need, oh, man, it's going to be good. You got the great. Sometimes you're like, nah, bro, you've been here for years. It's time to put it to bed and to elevate.
Nothing changes. Man. It's time to change something.
I was thinking a D in the back of my head. You're like, nah, bro.
I ain't gonna give you no pacifier.
Oh, man.
That's awesome, man. Hey, bro, thanks for coming hang out today,
man. I appreciate it.
This was awesome,
This
bro.
was great.
Keeping it real. Seriously, anything we can do for you guys, we love you. Man, we want to walk this thing out with you. We want to see freedom for you. My wife's going to make me end this thing by saying the go-to. Man, life can be tough, but God is still so good.